guys, Roadrunner here. So, turn this down just a little bit. Alright, so I told you guys before about my accident that I had in Clovis, New Mexico back in 2016. Well, here's another story for you guys, one from the road. So, in early 2015, when I was still what they call green, which they do use for hobos and tramps or whatnot, I went down to Galveston. I just left Lufkin, and I went down to Galveston, and from what I found on Google Maps, where I was at when I got dropped off downtown, I was out near what I think was either UP or BNSF freight yard. I want to say it was part of BNSF, and right now I'm looking on my maps here. Anyways, the plan was I was going to go to Galveston, because mind you, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I didn't know if I was actually going to be on the road, or if I was going to go down to Galveston and, try to make it big down there. What a damn dream that was. And so I get to Houston, and I get to this freight yard. And this freight yard follows I-45, if I remember correctly. Let's see, I-45, yeah. Okay, so let me think. I'm looking at this. I'm trying to remember, because I took this route several times to Galveston. I want to say I probably took the one from Houston to Alvin and then down to Galveston, but I can't really remember. Anyway, so I get down to Galveston, and I spent about from late December of 2014 up until either late February or early March of 2015. I spent that much time in Galveston, and man, was it cold. And so, I get off the train, and we're right there where UP has a yard up here, and then across their yard is BNSF down here. So you leave it, and you go from their yards through this really kind of shitty neighborhood that sits right next to it, and then you go from that neighborhood, and you walk all the way to, I can't remember what road it is, but you basically walk from there all the way to the seawall. Well, I've never been to Galveston on my own before, right? And so when I went to the seawall, I was very ill prepared, because I don't think I even had a blanket. I remember I actually had to, it was so cold, I went to this, they got porta potties all over the, so embarrassing. They got porta potties on the seawall as you're walking down the road, where the seawall is, and I actually had to literally go like this. I lock a stall up, and I'd just go like this, and I'd put my head in here, right, and I'd just sleep like that. And there's been a couple of times where people literally kicked the door in and woke me up. Anyway, so I'd sleep like that, and to be honest, I grew my habit, because I ended up meeting this kid, probably about, I don't know, a year younger than me at the time, a year and a half, somewhere around there. And he taught me how to steal from Walmart and such, which I'm not proud of, but at the time I didn't know any better. I mean, I knew better, I didn't know how to live without certain items at that time. Because I figured, it's Galveston, it's right there on the bay. I'm thinking it's going to be like Florida, where it's always hot. And boy, was I wrong, right? So, long story goes by, I ended up working at Sonic, because at the time I had experience working two different Sonics at the time here in Lufkin. And as I get there, I only spent maybe about a week or two with this Sonic, the one on the seawall of Galveston, because of some certain stuff that came up with management, where she didn't feel comfortable with anybody, really, I think especially men, being behind her, which I guess something must have happened to her. I don't know. I really don't want to go into it. And the fact that I just didn't like the way they were treating me, because even though they were a very fast Sonic location, they also didn't really, like, when I say fast, I mean, like, they got orders really, really fast. And the problem was, because of that, you weren't really allowed, especially since I was a skating car hop, you weren't allowed really to, like, show off and, do the usual stuff you would do to get a tip or whatever, That, which I guess explains why they gave me 725 instead of the 214 like a lot of other Sonics would. But I spent like a couple weeks there, ended up leaving because I didn't like the way I was being treated, and I kept, recycled metal, primarily cans, of course. Like I said, I was stealing from Walmart. I ended up going to, let's see if I can find it here. I ended up going all the way to the east end of the island to what used to be a fort, San Jacinto or something like that. I can't pronounce it right. But I ended up staying over there for about a month, and I ended up making friends with a couple people from. Somebody coming up my drive? Oh no. Anyways, a couple people from this church. They helped out where they could and such. Brought me stuff to eat or whatever. But I ended up. Let me see. I had an apartment for about a month. Not even an apartment. It was like a little room that was small. It's smaller than my bedroom. It was maybe, if you put two of my restrooms together, that's how big this little apartment was. I mean, you couldn't even bring somebody over without them feeling ashamed, I guess you could say. But anyways, I ended up having an apartment for about a month, and then as I'm doing this, I ended up. This is where the main story comes in. I got dropped off by one of the people from the church at Texas City because Galveston does not like their homeless people, and they do not like their poor people. And cannot you cannot be homeless or poor in Galveston, because in reality, unless you're good at stealing or lying to make money or even playing music, or even panhandling, you can't make it. That's one of the reasons why I just do not like the big cities, because it is so, it's so, how do you put it? It's just not feasible for somebody who lives in a tent or whatever, compared to a small town like Lufkin, where, you got trees and such, and you can live off the land. In Galveston, you really can't do that. So anyways, excuse me, had something in my throat. So, I get dropped off in Texas City, and I was going to Texas City because at the old Santa Fe station in Galveston, the old train terminal there, on the third or fourth floor at the time, I don't know if it's still there or not, there was a office where you can go get food stamps, which is the first time and probably the only time actually where I've ever been on food stamps. Since then, I haven't been on it because I don't believe in that stuff. And they told me, well, the food stamp office is here, and we'll send it to your address, but you got to go to Texas City and deal with the workforce center there. That's what I was dealing with. Was the workforce center was moved from Galveston up to Texas City, because they didn't want people homeless or poor or whatever. I guess they just didn't want to deal with them. At one time, Galveston used to have a bus that went from Galveston to Texas City. I think they made a stop in Santa Fe, Texas, and then they went up to Houston. And I remember they ended up getting rid of it because all these homeless people were coming in, and I don't know if it was the mayor or whoever, but they ended up stopping the bus service between the two major cities. So anyways, I go up to Texas City and I get dropped off, and mind you, I'm still new to having cell phones, because I didn't grow up with a cell phone like all these other kids did. Even at that time, I didn't have a flip phone. I didn't even have my first phone until I was 16 years old, and that was like a B-rated BlackBerry, if you want to call it that. So anyways, I get dropped off, went to the workforce center. I don't even remember what the hell I did there. I think I spent about 30, 45 minutes there. But after I was done, I was trying to call the guy back, and the one problem was my phone was at 15%, and I forgot to bring my charger. And the other phone I had at the time, because again, I always had two phones with me, The other phone I had didn't have service, and a lot of places up in that area did not allow you to have Wi-Fi because, again, even Texas City was having homeless issues. So I did end up calling them, but it was a miscommunication. They didn't tell me when they were actually going to be there. They just said, we'll leave it here in a little bit, which to me at that time meant we'll come by later. So I ended up, because I didn't feel comfortable where the area was, it was like what Houston would consider like the ghetto or the hood or whatever. That's what this place felt like in Texas City. And I ended up walking all the way back to Galveston. Now, I'm going to look up here real quick how many miles that is from Texas City. It might not seem far to you guys, but just hear me out, okay? Texas City. If it will pull up, please. I don't know what it is. My internet's gotten slow lately. Okay, directions. Let's say Galveston, Texas. Let's go for walking. That can't be right. Okay, for whatever reason, I forgot to mention, you're legally not allowed to walk on the causeway, which is the bridge between the mainland and the island. And this is where the interesting part comes up. So, okay, let's go to car, see how many miles that is. Okay, so it's 13.9 miles from the center of Texas City, which is where I was at, where the workforce center was, and walk it all the way down to Galveston. That's 13.9 miles. So it takes 18 minutes by car, but it took me, I left that workforce center around, it has been about 3:30ish. I didn't get back to Galveston because it took me many stops. I had to stop every, 20, 25 minutes. And I didn't even have a pack on. Mind you, all my stuff is over at this little apartment of mine, right? It took me, let's see, if I left around 3:30, I didn't get back until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And what scared me was I'd never, other than that one train ride I took from Houston to Galveston, I never actually been on the tracks of Galveston and the bridge that goes across. You see, there's a rail bridge that goes from the mainland down to Galveston, and in order to let the ships come through on the shipping lane, they have to they keep the bridge raised. So if this is the track right here and over here, the bridge stays up right here, which has the remaining track, but it lowers down as the train is coming. So I'm walking and walking, and I walked about halfway from the middle of town of Texas City all the way down to, where is it? Highway 146. And I'm following 197, Highway 197. I finally get to the train tracks, right? And by then, it's already dark. Because, again, I've taken many rests along the way. And I think I even stopped somewhere to get something to eat. So, as I get to the tracks, like I said, it's getting dark. I'm walking it, and I'm walking it. And it was peaceful at first. But then you start walking, and you realize, I'm looking at it right now, there's actually 2 sets of tracks. At the time, I didn't realize that because, again, it was dark. And I've never, other than that one train ride, I've never actually been on the tracks before. So, at that time, I didn't realize there was 2 tracks. I thought it was just one. And as I'm walking the tracks, I hear this train coming from Galveston. And it's coming, and it looks like it's on my track. It was actually on the track on the far right of me, and it was going up to Houston. So I'm walking it, and it was peaceful, you get to hear these birds or ducks or whatever it was, geese, whatever it was that was along the ponds of the train tracks. I ended up getting to Virginia Point, and here's what scared me, because I didn't know this at the time. And as I just mentioned, as you gain up to the bridge, you're walking in, you're walking it, and you're walking it. And again, it's illegal to walk I-45. It's illegal to walk interstates in general, but it's definitely illegal to walk I-45. They actually, at the time they did, I don't know if they still do now, but at the time, they they would have non-uniformed police officers sitting out where the entryway of I-45 is, like where people are, when they're coming off from the highway and coming onto the interstate, they would have people sitting there walking, or I'm sorry, waiting to see if anybody's walking on the interstate, right? So you can't walk the interstate. So I get to it, I'm walking, and I look up, and the bridge is coming down, right? There's a train coming. It's coming from Galveston. It's going up to Houston again, right? I'm waiting. The problem is when the bridge comes down, this almost sounds like a Stobe moment, right? When Stobe got killed back in 2017. So the bridge comes down, train comes, there's no sidewalk or sideway where people could walk, because technically, obviously, you're not supposed to be on it. And what I didn't know at the time, there's actually because again, I've never seen, we don't have bridges like these over near Lufkin. I think the closest one would probably be north of Houston, I think. But anyways, there's these little control HUDs up, at the top of the bridge, where they can actually control the bridge to come up or down, right? After the Santa Fe train, or whatever train leaves, I'm walking, I get about halfway in the middle of this bridge section, and all of a sudden I hear beep, 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 and the bridge starts rising, and I hauled ass from the middle of the bridge, and literally, I wouldn't say I had to jump, but I basically had to hop off from the section of bridge raising up and land on the rail line that's still sitting there. And then once you got onto that main section, there's on the right hand side, as you're walking from it, there is this little kind of like a 2-lane drive. Like, okay, so there's one drive here, and then on the other side of that drive is like a little walking path, right? So what I'm assuming happened was, I think somebody from the HUD house or whatever, the control compartment, saw me as I was walking the bridge and ended up calling it in. Because the next thing I know, there's this truck coming, and it was one of the railroad trucks coming to check and see if there's any trespassers. So I had to come on the other side where the walkway was and duck and wait for that truck to go by, and then once the truck came back and made it onto the island, I ended up continuing walking. But the problem was, as I reached the island, it took me another 15-20 minutes just to walk to the island, because how long this thing is, right? So as I reached the island, I walked all the way, let's see, Motel 6 is right there. I think I ended up walking all the way to this grassy area, which I think used to be where, I'm trying to see. So you're walking from Motel 6. I ended up getting off right there. I walked to Motel 6 and walked all the way past Target, past the Postal Service, and then ended up collapsing in you can't see it because I can't flip my camera around, but I ended up falling asleep right past the raceway where it's like a field. It's a field which I guess used to have buildings or houses or whatever. It's in front of the Salvation Army. I ended up passing out right there and woke up about maybe 2 hours later and ended up walking all the way home. And I think by the time I did make it, like I said, it probably had been about somewhere between 2 and 4, because it's a pretty long ass walk. It's actually the distance from here to Nacogdoches. But you can actually hitchhike from Lufkin to Nacogdoches, so there'd be no choice. But anyways, I just wanted to share that with y'all. I wanted to see, I don't know, some people have been asking for some more stories, so that's basically what had happened. I wasn't really doing YouTube much at the time on my old channel, so I didn't really film it much, and I knew it would be stupid filming it anyways, because I can get in trouble for it. So, anyways, I'm about to go dumpster diving. I actually just got this new phone mount on my bike where I can actually film myself while I'm bike riding. So, I'm probably going to start doing that now. And let's see, I leave in about, if I gotta move my camera here, I leave in about 2 hours. So, be expecting a video here later on. So, I'll see y'all later. Peace.